Good evening, everyone. Hello. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the special Coach of VIT Chennai session. We come together as a community, enthusiastic coders, learners ready to enhance our skills and grow. Today's focus is on Java, a fundamental programming language that powers countless applications and opens doors to diverse development opportunities. This is one of our first Java bootcamps, and we are just getting started. We are fortunate to have Denisha with us here, who is not only our social media and content lead here at CodeChef VIT Chennai, but also a passionate coder and mentor. She's amazing in creating engaging content, guiding fellow members through complex concepts. Tanisha has a solid background in programming and experience in leading workshops, making her the ideal person to walk us through today's session. So, without further delay, let's welcome Denisha to begin the exciting journey into Java.
Hey guys, I hope I'm visible and audible. Priya, can you confirm, am I visible and audible?
You are audible and visible.
Okay. Hey guys, I would love to know if you guys are like excited and ready to begin with this. Uh, and I would love some interaction as well, you know. Awesome. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Although I am hoping that most of you have downloaded the JDK, which is the Java Development Kit. I will take you through with it and I'll explain a little bit about how Java works. But mostly I will focus on the coding part of it, right? For those who might not have, in fact, downloaded JDK, I suggest you can take notes for now and then refer back to the documents that we will share you by the end of the event. So once that your download is completed, um, somebody wants to say something, right? As I was saying, you can refer back to those notes, right? Devpriya, I hope my this is visible screen.
Yeah, it's visible.
Right. Okay. Uh, so hello guys, and officially welcome to this introduction to Java programming. I think first things first, let me just show you how to download this. So you're gonna go to Oracle, where you'll get this link called Java Downloads, and you're supposed to just download the first one for your operating system. I'm running Windows, so I was using this one. You'll get an installer, something like this, and you're just supposed to run it. As for my coding environment, I'll be using JetBrains. Again, I would love some interactiveness and knowing that people are able to hear me. Anyhow, so what Java is that basically it allows you to run one code anywhere you want. We use something called a Java virtual machine. So basically, every time you compile and run this code, there's this machine that is handling everything in terms of environment. So you don't need to make those changes manually, right? It uses something called the OOPS, that is your object-oriented programming. Um, right, this I've already talked through. Right, so Java's syntax is similar to C and C++, and if you did attend our C++ bootcamp, you will find this like extremely easy because there's only slight differences between the two. The first thing that we get started with is something called the main method, which is like the same thing as your int main. Um, Let me just take you to my coding environment. This is sort of how your JetBrains ID would look like. I'm using IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, which is an amazing place to code it with because the benefit of this is that With Ultimate, you can use other Java frameworks as well. Something like Spring Boot that is used in a lot of other applications you use. All your banking apps, all your from your Google to everything, all the old code is written in Spring Boot. So I would say Java is like something you really should learn, right? This is your source file. This is where your code will run. The first thing that you're gonna do is make a Java class. I'm gonna name this intro, which is because I'm just gonna introduce you to how everything works, right? Now, the basic rule of Java is that the name of your class is the same as the name of your file, which is here, in this case, intro. Then the first thing you write, as we discussed, was public static void main, which is basically the same as your int main. Um, so now, if you have attended a C++ bootcamp, you would know the basic data types. There's int, which takes integer numbers. So int var is equals to 5. Or you can have a boolean like var2 is equals to true. You could have a double, right? Or you could have other data types that are slightly higher up in the terms of understanding, which I will get into in just a second. But these are the few data types that you follow. Say something nice. There's float as well. It's the same thing as double. Thankfully, double provides you greater precision. So I'd say go with double as much as you can. As for the slightly higher level data types that we have something called string, which is not directly there as you know in C. It goes with as an array of characters, but Java does us this favor of making it into a string for us. Or you could have an array, which looks something like, let's have an array of numbers, right? So you can have something like this. I'm so sorry. I don't know why. It's okay. Sure. Let us just have it like this. Because why not? Right, this is your syntax. I'm not sure why it was not letting me declare the same sentence, same line, because it really should, but then fine. We can use it in a different way. There are also features something like a string builder, which is used when you have to make a string and have something called an append thing happening to it. Or you could have the capital I integer, which again gives you more functionality than your normal int word. Right, that's I think all you need to know about data types. As for how to do input output, again, I have declared this class. I'll go ahead and write my classic public static void main. Um, so suppose now that you know your data types, so you want to say hello to whoever writes your name, like some random name you want to say hi to. So for that, you have to first import something called the scanner. Right again. That goes something like import java dot util, which is all the utilities that we have, scanner. So now with this scanner, what you can do is write scanner, some name for it, which is its object, new scanner system in. So now here what's happening is you have called the scanner class, which is predefined by Java, made an object name for it called scanner, and then you are giving its parameters for the constructor, which is called system.in. That is basically that which is basically the input interface of your system. Now let us have the scanner and let us maybe make it scan my name. So string name is equals to scanner.next line. Now scanner has multiple functions, something like a next line or next double, next int, or just next if we are like taking in a character. Right. So let us have a string name here. And now suppose I want to say hello to whatever this name is, right? For that, you use something called system.out.println. So we can have a hello name. This is a great feature about ID, by the way. It has amazing auto completion. It is very basic code, but it takes away the time of typing. I wouldn't suggest using this in replacement of your programming skills, but more so as to increase the speed of it. We, and then even to write the system.out.println word, there's a shortcut in this particular tool called SOUT, which is basically gonna give you this feature, which I would say is like really cool because now I don't have to take the time to write system.out.println because this is that much shorter. Then you just simply click this run button, which will build your code and then give you a terminal. Right. Should have. Let's say Danisha, because that's my name. So now it gives you hello Danisha or welcome Danisha, which basically is taking this word and then printing it out for you. We could also have something where it takes my age. So scanner. Let's just reformat it a little bit. System dot out dot print. Enter name. Now, if you're wondering why I did not write print ln and I wrote print, is basically because I want this name entry to be on the same line. So instead of having to, so now what this would do is instead of getting me to the next line for where I could write my name, it would give me it right next to the word enter name. Let us also have another scanner that says scan, right, int age is equals to scanner dot next int. So now we can have a you are and then years old. Right. So now it will talk about my name and my age. A good practice after this, I would say, is to close the scanner so that the buffer is removed. Otherwise, it would take up a lot of space on your laptop and would it might take your code into an error. So it's better off if you use scanner.close to close the scanner. So now if we run it once again. So as you see, now it's giving me right next to it, enter name. So I'm not led to the next line directly because I have not used ln here. So I could write again Danisha. Now I write my age and it shows me my age. The reason why I brought in this integer function is that now if I was to again take another line after this, it would give me an error. It would not be able to take. So just for testing purposes, let us take this exact part and copy it back again. And there is a slight chance that it might give me an error. So name to, right? So let us test this again. You get PT. See, as you saw, it just finished without letting me even enter my name again, despite the fact that I had another scanner here. Now, the reason for this is that after you enter this line, after you use this particular line here, what it's doing is it's having this buffer in the end. And when I get to this next line part, it just takes this buffer that I had after pressing enter here, and it's just taking that. So I'm just left with hello. But that is not what we want. We want it to go to the next line and take the buffer from there. So how we will do this is we'll try to take this buffer into something empty and then we let do this name to line. How we can do this is we can just write scanner dot next. So now what it's doing is it's taking away the issue that we were just facing. So once again, now, oh, my bad. I introduced this. Right. We can have it somewhere here. Right. So now, as you can see, I got this space to write my name again. It did not take the buffer again because this next line saved us that effort, took it here in this scanner instead. And now my name to scanner is empty. So I can again write, let's say, Madhura. So it now says hello, Madhura. That's the basics of your input and output. Um, as for control flow, there's if else, switch, and then loops. I'll show you a little bit on this PPT and then we. So these statements allow the programmer to dictate the order. So it's your if else, right? It enables conditional execution. There's your switch. Now the benefit of switch over if else is instead of having to write different else lines because of different cases, you can just have one switch line. Um, and you can have different cases within it. So you do not have to write if, else if condition again. Instead, you just write switch, primary condition, and depending on its output, you just have different cases going on. And then you have your for and while, and there is also, if you have heard of this, do while. I'm going to talk about these three, and I'm going to explain you why they exist do while when while is already there. So let's have another class right here called control statements. Right? Let us write. Now that you have seen me make this 2 or 3 times, you can see why I'm using this tab instead of actually writing it out because it's redundant and I know this line by now that it says public static void main string args, which is basically your arguments, whatever it might be. When you're calling main, void is your return type. Although we will be getting into functions later, I thought I should share. And then public is the visibility to others. Now, let us suppose I want to have, let us suppose that here we want to use something like a roller coaster thing where it takes your name to make your ticket, but it also takes your age. And if you are under a certain age or over a certain age, you're not allowed to get in. Then we'll have something like a switch statement for the similar condition where if you're over a certain height, then you're too big for the roller coaster. And if you're under a certain height, then you're too small for the roller coaster. So let us first define our variables. So age, let's have a double called height and a string called name. Now let us make our scanner class. Scanner equals to new scanner system button. So as you see, as soon as I hit my autocomplete button, it gave me this import line automatically. I didn't have to write it. But let us suppose I did, and I manually wrote system dot in here and this. So now, as you can see, I've not imported it. And instead of having to worry about pressing an enter here and then writing that line, I can just right click, show context actions, and import the class. Serves the same purpose. So let us, anybody any issues? Um, somebody's mic is on. Uh, JT, right, great. So, scanner on next line. After this, by the way, for whatever we have done up until now, I will take a small 2-minute Q&A before we move on to the next topics because as we move further, the intensity will increase. So these are our four scanner statements: age, height, using next double, scanner dot next line because again we want to take our string input which is after our integer and double input. So that's why take this so that the end characters are taken into the scanner and therefore we can have our word here. Now let us say if age is less than let's say if you are under 10, you should not be allowed this roller coaster. Then we can have sorry, you are too young for this. Let us say if your age is greater than maybe 80, we can again have a sorry statement that says sorry. I'm not gonna write further, but you can have a sorry statement. Sorry, you can't continue. Right. But now, what if you are within this range? In that case, we go through this else condition where we can say, welcome to the poster. Right. So this is your if else statement. Now we want something similar for our heights, where if your height is, this is funny, but suppose your height is exactly 170 centimeters. Is the only case when you can join. If you have 168, you'll be led to a different height, a different game. If you're 172, you'll be led to a different game. Let us suppose. Then we can have something called switch and then height. Right. So let us have case let us suppose that your height is 170. In that right. Let's have it as 170. Sure. Let's go back to it. That's what you want. Okay. So let us suppose your height is exactly 170 centimeters. Then in that case, we'll have an output line. Says you can continue. And then after this, what I would suggest is you use something called break, so that after this case, even if your next few cases are then considered valid and they might print, although you were only for applicable for this case, then in that case you are led to the next case as well, and this will continue. But if we write this break line, it will stop to where the end of this case is. Right. So let us have case 180. Why are you intentional? Right. Let's have case 180. And again, you can continue to a different game. Right. So these are two cases. If you're 170 centimeter, you can continue, but then if you're 180 centimeters, you should go to a different game. But what if you're neither? Then we need something called a default, where if nothing is valid, this is the case that you go to. So default, sorry, you can't continue. Again, are you like that? Right. So this is a switch statement. Now what this is allowing us to do is check our it's allowing us to check our age, our height, and then we can have a simple print statement where we can write hello. Let's have this before all of this. So now it says hello, says welcome to the roller coaster, and here it will say you can continue depending on your age, right? What we could also do is have an and statement here. So in if I wanted to have something where your age should be less than greater than 10 and less than 80 and your height should be 1 centimeter, 170 centimeter is the only case when you can continue. Then we would use this line. Let me just show you this once and then we can switch to that as well. So I enter my name, no, wait, age, height, and the name. So as you see, it shows first it goes and checks my age. I am the perfect age for this, so I can continue. Then it continues forward to where my height is given, and I am exactly 170 centimeter, where I can continue again. But if, let us say, I was not 170 centimeters, so let us say I was 150, and then I was to write my name, it will say, sorry, you can't continue because it went to this default condition because neither of these two conditions were satisfied. Now, let us say you need to be within a certain height range and an age range, and is the only case where you can continue. And for the rest, every other case, you can't continue. The code would look something like this. So let us say if age is greater than 10 and age is less than 80 and my bad, and height is greater than equals to 150.0, and height is less than maybe 300, then you will have you can continue to the roller coaster. And for all other conditions, it will be like, sorry, you can't continue. So now let us have 18, 170, which will automatically be converted into the double that we're using. And then, so it says, welcome to the roller coaster, you can continue. But if I was to change this into an or statement where either of the two conditions need to be satisfied, that is, One second.
Guys, stay connected. It seems like a bit of a connection issue. Our speaker, Danisha, will join us soon.
So, hello guys. I'm My name is Nitin Singh. I'm a CPD. So, Dinesh, I will. It's internet connection is not good. So, I will be taking your Java class for 5 to 10 minutes, I guess. So, can you guys tell me where we were, or can I explain you guys a function? Can I start with a function, or you want to give any other topic so I can teach you that? So can I go with if and if else, or you already know? Dinesh already taught you. Anyone?
Then you can start with like loops. The initial taught us till for loops and all. Control statement
Okay,
basically.
control statements. Okay, so okay, I'm starting with the loops. Case. So
See, it's
okay,
like
Denisha will
switched it.
continue. Okay, so Denisha will continue the case switching if she's a civil gen. I'm just going starting the for loop, a simple for loop, then while loop. Okay, wait, just 1 minute.
I am so sorry, guys. I did not know there was some internet issues happening. Could just somebody confirm it? What was the last thing that you could all hear?
Case
You were
switching.
teaching case switching. Yeah.
So you saw till switching.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, so I had written a little bit of code, which I'm hoping is saved. And there in that code, I was actually discussing about, at least I thought that I was discussing about for loop. So we continue from there, right? Just there. Let me just share this. Akshat, could you confirm if everything is visible properly?
Yeah, yeah, it's visible.
Right. So after switch, I actually was trying to explain this condition of and or. So whilst I was in the middle of a code, what happens if in the case of if I was to use an and or not or was basically in that case, if I was to write an or here for these two conditions by using brackets, in that very case, if I was to replace this with or, instead of checking for both the conditions as I would like it to, it would only check for either of it if either of them are true, which I don't want. We want both of them to be true for our roller coaster condition to be valid. So that's why we'll use and for this particular case at least. So what I was trying to do was have this string called customers, where if we reach the limit of 5 customers, we say, sorry, seats are full. Otherwise, we continue adding them to the roller coaster. So that's where I was trying to add the name of everyone in the roller coaster. So that would be equals to, and then we can have their name. We can actually take this whole part as well within the within this condition, because what we need for this particular code to do is to take in that many customers. So all of these names can be in fact a part of our for loop condition right here, along with these two hello conditions. Right? Yeah. So now we can add this temporary variable that we're creating within our loop, which will be refreshed every time we use this code. And we'll save a name and then have that name in our customers array. Right. What this is providing us is with an array of all the customers or all the people who are going on this roller coaster for now. And we just tell them, sorry, you can continue. So all of this should be a part of this else condition right here. And we can have all of this. Yeah. I suppose it's fine. Yeah. Right. Okay. Customers. It seems to be an error, which I'm not sure. I am not really sure why I'm getting an error. 1 second. You. Right. I am not sure what it told me to do. We'll just see our we'll just have a little debugging once I run. Okay. Yeah. All right. Nice. So now we can also print this array. And how we'll do this is we'll have another for condition, which is at the end of this. For you can have this simple condition. Right. What it's suggesting, which I will go through in just a second, is something called an advanced for. But now we shouldn't get any issue. So let's have 5 valid people. So okay. Right. I am so sorry. I'm not sure what my error is. 1 second. Let us for now, instead of going through this deep trail of debugging, let us just for a second remove this remove this customer's array, and let us just have this counter array to check if the seats are full or not. Right, so we can just remove this name variable as well altogether. So what this will let us do is have an counter to check if we have reached 5 people. If we have, in that case, we just break this whole condition saying that soy seats are full. Otherwise, we'll just continue with this. So I forget to. Oh, right. This I forgot to remove. Right. So let us have all the valid conditions. 18 and 170. You can continue the roller coaster. Let us have 19 and then 200. 115 and then 150. That's 3. Let's have an invalid condition. Let's say 9 and then 100. We can't continue. Maybe 25 and 175. Not 275. 175. Okay, fine. Let's have another one. 25 and 180. Right. 50 and 160 centimeter. 24, 30 and say 175 once again. Sure. But by this time you got seats are full because you had 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 conditions. So your counter reached to the fifth condition and seats got full. Now here, one more thing that you could do is you could have this, break this, but also have a statement where you are resetting this counter so that for the next roller coaster ride, these people get this counter is again 0 and you can have this function run again for the next ride. That's your for condition. You can also have a while condition where I just write while counter is less than 5. And we can have the same condition run. We just need to remove. And this, we'll need that. Right. We can also this will perform the same function, right? We just don't need this line as well. But this is performing the same function where it's checking as long as the counter is less than 5, it will let us add people or, say that they're not allowed. But the second it's over 5 or it reaches the value 5, we just stop. We do not let more people on. Now, there could be a condition where we, no matter what, at least once take the input and then check this condition. What that would look like is we do 2. And at the closing of this, we write a while counter less than 5 condition. Right. So now what it's doing is at least once it will run this and then only it will check if we have reached a limit of 10 people, because let us suppose that the ride has 10 seats. So now at least once, even if this value is 10, at least once it will let you take this input. See, which if we were to go back to our old condition of 5 and putting this as 5 would not have been allowed because seats were full already. So that's the difference between a while and a do while. So there are some conditions where you need this do to run beforehand, and then we can go to while. While. Um, Let me just go back to the PPT to show you guys. But these were your control statements. I'm hoping that you guys are understanding. Before we continue, if you have any questions, please do let me know. Tell me if you have something. I just saw that somebody wrote, why is the output you can't continue for age 25, height 175 wrong? And the issue was I actually made this typo where I wrote 275 and I had to go back and edit it. And if you would have noticed, it went white colored one and then 75 wasn't green. So what it basically caused an issue because of that change in my terminal, because that is not what my terminal was allowing. So that is why, if you want, I could run this condition again and show you like 25 and height 175. So let us just go back to our old code for, no, right. Let's just go back here and have age 25 and height as 175. It does say you can continue the roller coaster, but if I was to write 25, 275, and then go back, edit it, as you can see, as you see, there's this like one that is in white color because it's accepting it as not as my double value that I wanted to, but it's accepting as some other variable altogether, and therefore it's assuming that the height in itself is 75 and this was just some typo, and 75 as a condition is not allowed. So if I was to change this to 75, let us say, and then have this same thing run again. So 25, 5, go back, change. It will still continue because 75, which is the number that it's assuming, is still valid for this current condition. Are there any other questions that I might have missed? Guys, any questions at all? Anything you want to mention in the chat? Because after this, we'll be moving on to a little more in-depth topics, which is your functions and classes objects. And then the most important thing for at least for our case, which is our event, the Tank Arena event, which is event handling. So since those topics are a little heavy, I would say that it's better if we talk about these fundamentals and get them cleared. Right? Okay. Um, okay, I'll just get into functions and then I am planning that we can all have a little break. I think everybody's a little tired since nobody seems to be responding. So we can have a little break after functions. So functions are, so again, we know our simple public static void main. There we go. The basics. Oh, just remember this. Should do this. Right. Let us suppose that this whole checker, instead of writing it within my loop, I wanted to make it into a function. So let's just copy this code here. Let us suppose that we wanted all of this to be a separate function. Then and not having to write this over and over within our loop, then what we could do is have another function called public void, no, public boolean, because we want a true or false condition. checker. Right. Now, we could do this two ways. We could have something called arguments, where int age and double height could be two arguments that we pass in, and then we just have this if condition running in. Or we could have a second condition where this whole part, including the scanners, are within this. For this particular case, I'm just gonna have some arguments and then parameters. So I can write int age double height, and within this we could have just this if condition. I'm so sorry, guys. So what we are now doing is making this if else condition within our this function called checker. So now we have an age, a height, and a counter, which just counts the number of people. Let us just remove this if condition because we don't want it here anymore, because we are assuming that this roller coaster is unlimited to whoever wants it. So now what we're gonna do is we made this function checker. We're gonna have this checker being called. And then we can have our, as you can see, it is even telling you the first thing that you need to have is some parameter for age. Then you need something for your height and then a counter. So now we have this condition and we can have if checker is fast, we don't need this line here. We just go with, we can have this here. Why are you not? Okay. Right. Right. And then we have a return true because we want to say that they in fact passed our checks. And if they don't pass this check, we can just have an else. You can't continue the roller coaster, which will be if we return false. So hmm. So now what's this? Although this particular oh wait, my bad. This is called functions. Right. So now what this particular function is doing, although in this particular case it's super simple, what it's providing you is this way of having this if condition already within another function. So if after using all of this for somewhere along a larger piece of code, I wanted another, again, this function to be used, I could just call it within here. I would not have to rewrite this, which would have been the case earlier when I was using some strategy called the iterative strategy. These functions can also be used for your DSA and competitive coding when you want to use applications of recursion. These provide you like a great help, and you can, instead of having to rewrite everything or having to go through a looping condition, you can just have a function being called over and over. Yeah, we can just have a right. Now we don't actually need counter for this particular condition because again we are not having the seats full condition. So let us just move. So it will just run a total of 10 times and you will just have an age and height checker. We don't need this as well. So right, that's your functions. Now there could be a multiple types of functions. I use this one. Okay. Yeah, I'll go to the next. So that's like your basic functions. You could have any form of return type. We have taken Boolean. You could have void, which is no return. You could have int, double, jar, string, anything. As for public, if this was not public, I would not be able to access it elsewhere. So if I was to call this class somewhere else for something else, this particular function would not have been visible. As for static, I'm just telling it that this needs to be same. We don't want to have this alter because of something else, and therefore we have written this public static because we don't want it to be altering. And that's your basic functions. As for what I am showing here, simplify if else. Instead of writing all of return true and return false, I'm just giving it my condition and saying return whatever if this condition is satisfied, then return true on your own because the answer of this whole expression in itself is true. And if this expression is not passed, like if you somehow invalidate this expression, then it will automatically return false. I would not have to actually write all of that code. So yes, that's a simplified version of this if else. For just this particular case, you could use it elsewhere as well. And that's functions. Any questions? Again, any questions? Because after this, guys, we'll take a small little break. I'll wait for a minute. If there's no questions, we can take a break and we can continue in a while. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. Even during the break, if you have any questions, I'm sure the team will help you on chat in solving these questions. Dave Priya.
Yeah, okay. So, guys, we'll be having a 10 minutes break. You can join us back by 9:30. And while you're at it, let me tell you about a upcoming event, which is Tank Arena. It's on Saturday, 20th September. It's a Java-based tank game where you will be building your own tanks and fighting against other teams, which is also a free of cost event. It's an opportunity for you guys to showcase your coding skills, your war strategies, and compete for the top positions. So, yeah, join us back by 9:30. हाँ ब्लूटूथ और यूएसबी दोनों है
Samsung buds.
पता है इसमें ना यहाँ पे आरजीबी लाइटिंग है
Hello, guys. I am back. I'm so sorry for taking 3 minutes, like for coming back 3 minutes early, but I thought we'd better get started because there's not a lot of topics left now, so it's just a little bit, and then you would be good to go, and you'd be like well prepared for Tank Arena and for whatever you're coding in general. So let's go back to my PPT where we talked about functions, which is one second, my bad. Yeah, right. Let's go. We talked about control flow. We talked about how functions work, parameters, which I hope you understood. And now we go to what is the core of Java, which is object-oriented programming. So how object-oriented programming is that you have a class as a blueprint. So you can have different functions, different attributes, properties, methods, or functions that the object creates and contains. So now if I make something, like suppose I'm making a game where I make a car as a I make a class called car, and the car has its own features. It has its speed, it has its acceleration, friction, the works. And then if I am using something called a main Java class, there I could just take this car class, and instead of having to redefine all the variables over and over, I could just reuse what I made with the class called car. Right. So this is sort of how the syntax looks. You write the class name, you write your object name, you write the word new because it's a new object. You again write the class name, this time with the parameters that it requires for the constructor. This you also saw when we were trying to bring in a scanner. A scanner itself is a class, and we were using an object called scanner with a small s or SC, and our parameter was system.in. The objects are instances of class where a class is defined, no memory is allocated, but every time, so it's like if you're making a class, if I was to make this over and over and still not use it, it would take up a lot of space. But with classes, it's not taking that space, and I'm just calling it wherever I need it. Um, this is the class object relationship that defines the object-oriented programming. The class defines the properties and behaviors and how it should work. So if I if I go back to that example of car, we could have the part where the car is supposed to drive at a certain speed. We could have a method, which is a function within a class, where let us suppose that it should have a formula of sorts where it's following the acceleration, the speed, and the friction. So instead of having to redefine this value, I could just have this behavior written down in car, and every time, instead of having to write something, I could just go car.move, and this function would be used. Methods are bound by classes, and functions are bound. Functions are not bound, they're just like standalone code blocks. After this, we have a different topic that we'll get to in a moment. For now, let's go back to the code editor. Right. So let us make a new class. Let's, in fact, name it car, because that's what we were talking about. So let's have a class called car. Now, here within this class, we could have a constructor. So how a constructor is made is we write car, and we could set the speed and other values. My bad. My bad on that. We could have car, any parameter arguments that we want to take. For this particular case, I don't. So this is not a parameterized constructor. It's a default constructor. Parameterized constructor is when I have values here, which I in this case don't want. We can have, let us say, a few variables. So we could have a variable like let's see what we want as a variable. We could have speed in speed in acceleration in friction right? And we could have, let's just call it max speed, right? So we are just checking that if our value goes beyond a certain value called max speed, then the car needs to stay in this max speed and not accelerate further. Right. So we can have this max speed is equals to, let's say, 3 acceleration. Sure. We can have an acceleration of 2 and a friction of 1. These are some random values that I chose. You could have any other value. So this is our car. And here we could have a method called public speed int. Again, we don't want anything actually because we have those values given. My bad. Public wait speed. Now we could have this condition that if let's just have variable speed is let's have this as current speed for convenience. Right. If speed equals 0, if speed is greater than max speed, the public value, right? Static. We could have this already. But public static and etc. Oh, nice. Now we don't have to do this because we have made this public. Right. So if our speed is greater than our max speed, in that case, speed becomes max speed. Else, speed is equals to, let's what? Just have wait, we'll change this to a different value, in fact, called current speed, because I wanted to show something else. It's me. Right. So let us say we have, if speed is greater than max speed, then speed becomes max speed. Otherwise, your speed value becomes current speed minus friction. I know that I think this is in terms of physics really wrong, but that is not why I'm here. But yeah, you could have a function similar to this. So every time I will call this particular method, it will return it will return its int value called speed, return speed. So now I know what speed we're moving with. We could add multiple more functions, but for that I would need to call in an interface because what I'm talking about requires a UI. But let us say we have a class called main, and we could have this. So now if I wanted, I could have something called, let's just make this as a function. Car equals new car. We don't need really any parameters. And I could just print speed. I am on go for a minute. I'll be right back. Yes, I am so sorry for that. We're missing our bracket. No. Sure. Once again. Right. It is giving us a value. We can, which we can calculate. So current speed is 2, friction is 1, current speed minus friction, we get 1. So we are getting exactly the value we want. Let us suppose this was 7, which means our speed value is exceeding the max speed limit, in which case we will go back, and if we run this again, okay. Just put this way, friction, and we can remove this. 1 second. Now, if we go back and run this again, let's second. Hmm. Instead of getting the value 5 that I was supposed to get, sorry, 6, which I was supposed to get, 7 minus 1, 6, I'm getting a value of 3 because the max speed that I have set for this particular condition is max speed is equal to 3. But if I was to change this to, let us say, 4, we would get this value, 4. So that is how an object works. I am taking this, outsourcing this whole function method and these attributes to this car class, and I'm just using this main class for management, which is something you would do in large scale projects where you could have different components and different classes and have one main class which serves as a management purpose where you're calling everything in the order that you need it to run. And this is like a super useful tool for management when you get like a lot of components that you do not like, you do not want all of that to take up the space of your screen. So that's the basic of classes and objects. We will have topics like inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, interfacing, overriding, right, polymorphism, and other stuff, threads. But all of this is something that we will be doing later on in the future Java bootcamps that we hold. But for now, let us move on to something else, which is event handling, which is the most primary thing that you will be needing for Tank Arena. Now, let me just go back here. So, what event handling is that let us suppose that you were to go somewhere and you were to ring a bell, then the action of ringing that bell is generation. The bell then recognizes that the button was pressed, and that's your event listener. And then the bell sound that is made is called handling events, right? That's where it's telling you, okay, now this is what you're supposed to do. Now, the basics of event handling is that it, like what an event is basically it provides you with an interface of making a slight change or recognizing changes in a GUI interface. Let me just show you this in a sample. Right here, I have actually already written this since this requires an interface. So I had written this beforehand, but let me show you what's happening. So we have a class called event handling, which is extending JFrame, which is a Java based toolkit, a tool where you can have an interface and you can load characters and other things within this interface. Now, and we're implementing something called a key listener. Now, what a key listener does is whatever key that I press on my keyboard will be, as it says, listened by Java code, and it will know what I have pressed, what I have released. So that's where we have these two functions. We have this function called key pressed, which basically says which key is it that I have in fact pressed. So if I was to press W, it will print W. If I was pressing A, it will print A. Now here, let's just go back and just see this constructor once. We have added a key listener. We want this here. We have set the size of our frame, which is 300 by 200 pixels. We have set our default close operation, that is. So what this is doing is when you press this close button, instead of going back and getting minimized, it's just exiting. And set visible is true is when basically we want to be able to see this, right? And here we have a key released and a key typed function as well. Now, if I was to show this, I don't think this is being shared. 1 second. Share screen. Right. Let me just close this. Let's close this for a second. Now, if I was to run this, as you see, I get this pop-up here. Now, if I go on the screen and I press W, it says key pressed is W. If I go here, I press my up arrow, it shows, I mean, it cannot show the arrow because it's a terminal, but it says that we press something. S, Q, T, anything you want. Let me just maybe show it to you. I am pressing A. It recognizes it, which I think is pretty cool. If you were to make a game, something like Minecraft, which is made in Java, by the way, it would require this event handling and a key listener for all of the movements that you do. Now, the reason why we are discussing something as deep as this in this introduction to Java Bootcamp is because our event, Tank Arena, will be requiring us to be able to handle events because that's how the code works. I got a sample code from somewhere, and although I do not have RoboCode right now installed, basically, here's how it would sort of look like. You have a class. I have, in this case, named it my bot. Now, what it's doing here is we're importing RoboCode, which is a package that I will have to install if I was to use the software. And we can have something called, it will scan robot. If it spots, then it will name and get me the distance between our bot and the bot that we have scanned. Now, this scan bot event E, here the E holds all the features, characteristics, attributes of your bot, and you've made an event out of it called scan robot event, where it's scanning if the parameter is sensing something. So here, if you go back, we have a key event called E. So every time E is activated, its parameters go and use this function called get key char, where I can where it senses like where it sees what character is it that I've pressed. So here it will be just checking if there's a distance, if at some distance there's an object, if a bot, and what the name of the bot is. And then it will do this function called fire, which is a command which is used by robocode, where it fires from the tank. If you notice here, we've not used system.out.println, but instead we've used out.println. And the reason for this is that, again, this robocode uses out.println to print not in our terminal, but instead in the terminal of the robocode GUI, this line. So this is more so a reference for you to see that your code is running, and within that interface, you can see like how it's working. Now we have a run function that while it's true, you keep on moving ahead, keep on turning your gun 360, and then you keep on moving back. So you're just checking. Now this is something you can change as a strategy with when you are at that event, our tank arena event. But for now, we have just shown that it will move 100, check, move back 100, right? And now let us suppose that this bot got hit. Now it will just print this. It will turn left by 90 degrees and then move ahead by 100. So these are some sample functions, but again, E is just holding these values, and this hit by bullet event is just checking if we are like, if the senses, the attributes are becoming true for a hit feature. So a hit wall or a hit by bullet feature if it's being turned on. Right. So that is all I'd say that I could share with all of you. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'm so sorry, I was slow. Could you please tell what I was slow with? Because I know I did not write code for the last two parts. So if there's something you did not understand, I would just write that out instead. And as for this events, by the way, the event handler, we will be taking this again at the event because at Tank Arena, because I'll explain. There, you're using a different interface, and we will be teaching you how to use that interface. This is more so just the basics of it. So this, at least this event part will be revised there. You don't need to worry. Can you once show the event handling file once again? Sure. By the way, the team will share a GitHub link soon, and you'll be able to see all of this. I will be putting all of these on the GitHub page. You can see. Second. I'm hoping you're able to see. Is your doubt clarified? Whatever you wish to see here. Is there something in particular you want me to explain again? And guys, you can text as much as you want and ask questions here. I totally would not mind answering them. Amandeep, I am hoping whatever you wanted to see or note down, you have. And once again, you will be getting this as a document, so you can just refer there as well. So anything else? Right. Was there any question in it? What you wanted to say? Um, I'm gonna suppose that there's no questions. how to learn Java from basics. If you don't mind, can I ask you what is your use case? What is it that you want to learn it for? Because if you want to learn it for more of project, then the learning style that you will follow will be slightly different to how you would learn it for competitive programming. I am personally more of a projects person, although I do use Java for all of my DSA as well, but I'm more of a projects person. So what I did was I went through a few YouTube videos. I recommend a YouTuber called Procode. Right. So what I did was I just did all the MCQs and all the theoretical part about it. Right. So what I did was there's a website called Solo Learn, and there you have Java as like you have a basics of Java and then intermediate Java. So I just did that and I did all the theory from there. It's like a Duolingo but for coding languages instead. And then I went ahead, went to Brocode's video, and for all the basic topics, stuff like input, output, the stuff that I've already covered as well, you would see there that he takes all of these parts as different website name. I'll just type it 1 second. So noted. Right. And then so there's a 12-hour video where there are different projects that he will take for each of those topics. And even if you feel like you know a topic, I recommend just take those projects, just do them. I did this. I did Java as a whole only a few months back, and the way I learned from him, from the videos, made me fall in love with it. So I would totally recommend that you use SoloLearn, and then even if you don't like Procode, you could just search up any project-based learning tutorial. There's a GitHub link for this as well called Project-Based Learning. There it will make you make a lot of projects. So this goes onto your GitHub, and then this does teach you how to code a project. So it's not just a theoretical, okay, this is how you take an input. You're seeing how it's being applied in real life. Anything else? Um, Any other questions, guys? Just a random recommendation, by the way, for whosoever wants to do Java is using IntelliJ. I suffered a lot and it helped me a lot in fixing a lot of stuff. And IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, which is which you can use for Spring Boot and all the other frameworks as well, is free for us since we're students. So you can go, you can redeem your GitHub Student Developer Pack. That is true. Yes, you should definitely do C basics and OOPS as a concept in C++. I'd say the order does not matter. To participate in the upcoming event, how comfortable should we be with Java? I think the stuff that I have currently talked about seems more than enough. That is how I figured out what the event flow should be. I just figured out what all I need to share with all of you, depending on the code. And then the little basics of Java that you need, especially for that event, will be taught. Like we'll have a 30-minute buffer time where we'll be just like going around helping you all understand how the website works, how everything works, and then you can continue using Java. Also, I forgot to mention, but yes, I would like to say, Mage, even though there's like different purposes of C, C++, or Java. So in terms of a learning path, right, as a fresher, can you suggest me whether learning Java is I would say yes. Java is my favorite language. And as for what Vejiva is saying, what I did was I had Python in 12th grade. Then I did C, C++ in my second semester, and now in my third semester, I'm learning Java in college. But because I saw the use case, I saw different features and things that blew my mind in Java, I sat and learned it. So as I was saying, C, C++, and Java have different features. C is the basic. C is what you'd need for your operating systems. For anything low level, you will need your C. C++ in the later days is used more for game development. That's C++ serves as a base for C Sharp, which Microsoft uses with .NET to make games. Java, on the other hand, is a lot of our older code is written in Java. Microsoft uses C and C++, but Google uses Java. Um, so that is something I think you should put in your head that Java is used. Java is used in a lot of slightly higher level, like a banking app, banking systems. There's a very high chance that they were made using Spring Boot as a backend framework because of the features that it provides. So I would say you should. But Mejiman is also not wrong that if you really want to understand object oriented and how all of this came to be, you could do C. But I would say once you learn one or two languages, hopping between these languages is not that hard and not that required either. You will just understand the basics either ways. So I think it's more of a you test all languages, see which suits you best because a lot of people like C++ and do not like Java. So what suits you best? Take that one, do that one. Anything else? Um, if you have the feature of unmuting enabled right now, then I'd also suggest that one by one you can raise your hand and unmute and talk to me. I would not mind that. Instead of you having to type and me having to read it out loud, we could have a conversation like that as well. Okay. Anyone else, if you have any questions, feel free to text me.
Hey guys, if you don't have any more questions, if you like this session and you are interested in learning more about coding and competitive programming, we will conduct more workshops like this. Stay tuned for our next session where we'll be diving in object-oriented programming concepts, which is a cornerstone of Java and one of the most important topics for every aspiring developer. And let me just remind you guys, our event, Tank Arena, which is around the corner, 20th September, which is this Saturday. It's a Java-based tank game where you will be building your tanks and fighting against others. It's completely free of cost. It's an opportunity for you guys to show your coding skills and war strategies. Okay, so as we come to the conclusion of today's session, I'd like to express heartfelt thanks to everyone who made this event possible. Thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you to our esteemed speaker, Danisha, for her excellent presentation and for sharing her knowledge and expertise with us today. We're also grateful to our President Dakshin, Vice President Anika, and General Secretary Akshat for their continuous support and encouragement in organizing these events. And also, thank you to our leads, Gauri, our event management lead, Nitin, our competitive programming lead, for their valuable support and hard work in organizing this event. Your dedication behind the scenes is what truly makes these gatherings successful. And of course, to every participant, Thank you so much. Your presence and engagement make these events worthwhile. And plus, before we end this meet, I'd invite everyone to stay connected, follow our Insta, which is Coach Chef VICC, and also we have another unofficial Insta page, which is CCVITC Unplugged. Following us is the best way to stay updated on our upcoming events, workshops, contests, whatever we are organizing, we'll be posting there. And we look forward to seeing you guys at many more exciting events ahead. Plus, we'll be sharing the feedback form in chats later to tell us what you think about the event. We'd love to know from you. And for the upcoming events, I'd love to see you guys there. Thank you so much, guys. Keep learning and keep coding. This was Coach Chef VIT Chennai signing off. Thank you, guys.
Manuel, you raised your hand. Was there something you wanted to ask?
Sorry, it was pressed by mistake.
Ah, okay, okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. You can leave.